listen to me right now, because this is not just a message, this is a lifeline. You, the one who's been crying in the midnight hour, the one who feels forgotten, the one who wonders, God, where are you? Do you even see me anymore? I came here to tell you something the devil does not want you to hear. God has not abandoned you. The silence is not his absence. The pain is not his punishment. The delay is not his denial. Oh, child of God, you are still in his hands. And the same God who led you into this valley will lead you out with victory. There are moments in life when it feels as though heaven has closed its doors and locked them shut. Prayers are whispered into the darkness, but there's no reply. Tears fall onto the pillow, but there's no comforting voice answering back. Days pass, weeks pass, months pass, and it seems like God is nowhere to be found. In those moments, the enemy leans in close and whispers lies. See, he's forgotten you. You've been left behind. You are on your own now. But those are lies, and they must be silenced with truth. The truth is this God's silence is not God's absence. A test does not mean the teacher is gone. In fact, when the test comes, the teacher is still in the room, watching, present, attentive, but allowing the student to demonstrate what has already been taught. In the same way, when God feels silent, it is not because he has abandoned the room of your life, but because he knows the faith he planted in you is strong enough to hold you steady until the next word comes. The word of God declares in Hebrews 13:5, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That is not a suggestion. That is not a maybe. That is a covenant promise sealed by the faithfulness of God himself. If he said he will never leave, then his silence cannot mean his absence. It must mean something else, something purposeful, something eternal. Think of the seasons of the earth. In winter, the trees look dead. Their branches are bare. The color is gone, and the cold wraps around them like a burial cloth. Deep beneath the surface, life is still flowing. Roots are still drinking water. The hidden systems that sustain the tree are still active. The silence of winter is not the death of life. It is the preparation for spring. And so it is with the soul. When God is silent, he is not inactive. His hand is moving in ways unseen. His spirit is aligning people, places, and events for your good. The heavens may feel still, but the kingdom is not idle. Heaven's timeline is still advancing, and your name is still written in the plan. The children of Israel knew what it was to cry into silence. Under Egyptian slavery, they groaned in pain for centuries. For 400 years, there was no prophet, no thunderous word from the sky, no angelic message, just the relentless grind of labor and the sting of the whip. But then Exodus 20:24 says, God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The silence did not mean God forgot. The silence meant the time had not yet come. And when the time was right, the silence broke with deliverance. Many confuse God's quietness with God's distance. But distance is about location. God has no distance from his children. He is Emmanuel, God with us. If he is with you in the mountain, he is with you in the valley. If he is with you in the light, he is with you in the dark. The same presence that held you when you were rejoicing is the presence holding you when you are barely breathing. There are divine reasons for silence. Sometimes God uses it to test trust. Sometimes he uses it to develop patience. Sometimes he uses it to protect from a premature move that could destroy the promise before it's ready. The silence of God is not a void. It is a tool. Consider a seed buried in the soil. Once it's planted, it disappears from sight. No one can see it. No one hears from it. It's surrounded by darkness, pressed down by the weight of the earth. But inside, the seed is breaking open. Transformation is happening in silence. Roots are forming in secrecy. If the soil could talk, it would say, be patient. The seed is not gone. It's growing. And one day, the silence will give way to a sprout breaking through the ground. So it is with those who walk with God. There are seasons where you are hidden, where the prayers seem unanswered, where the guidance feels absent. But God is not gone. He is planting you deeper, strengthening your roots, and preparing you to break through in due season. The psalmist said in Psalm 139, 7:10, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. That means there is no place, whether in the heights of joy or the depths of sorrow, where God is not present. Even when his voice is quiet, his presence is holding you. Even when the answers are delayed, his promises are still in motion. Even when the heart aches, his hands are still steady over your life. Do not let silence make you think you are forgotten. Heaven has a record of every tear, every prayer, every sigh. Psalm 56:8 says, God collects your tears in a bottle. He keeps count of them. They are not wasted. They are not overlooked. They are precious to him. So when the days feel heavy, remember, quiet is not empty. Silence is not absence. God's stillness is not God's departure. The Father who carried you yesterday is carrying you today, and he will carry you tomorrow. He is closer than breath, nearer than your thoughts, and stronger than the storm that surrounds you. If the night feels long, it's because the dawn is preparing to break. If the valley feels deep, it's because the mountain ahead is high. And if the silence feels unbearable, it's because the next word from God will be worth the wait. God has not left. God has not forgotten. God is still here. And when the appointed time comes, the silence will break, the answer will come, and the glory of the Lord will shine brighter than you ever imagined. Pain is one of life's greatest mysteries. It shows up without invitation. It interrupts without warning. It can shake the strongest heart and bend the most steadfast faith. There are nights when the tears refuse to stop, when the chest feels too tight to breathe, and when the question echoes over and over, God, why is this happening to me? It is in those moments that the enemy whispers his cruelest lies. You are being punished. God doesn't care. This is meaningless. But those words are poison, and the truth of God's word washes them away. The truth is this with God: pain is never wasted. From the very beginning, God has been a redeemer, not just of souls, but of stories. He takes broken pieces and shapes them into beauty. He takes the ashes of sorrow and fashions them into crowns of joy. The hurt you feel right now is not the end of the story. It is the tool he is using to shape the next chapter. Look at Joseph. His life reads like a sequence of tragedies: betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, and forgotten. For over a decade, it seemed as though God had abandoned him to endless injustice. But the pit was positioning him. The prison was preparing him. Every tear Joseph cried was watering the soil for a harvest he could not yet seed. One day, in a moment, everything shifted. Pharaoh called for him, and the prisoner became a ruler. And Joseph could look into the eyes of those who betrayed him and say in Genesis 50:20, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. The pain was the very road that led to the palace. It is the same for you. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the rejection, it is not random. It is producing something in you that comfort never could. Pain deepens compassion. It sharpens discernment. It builds endurance. It teaches you to hold on to God, not just in the sunshine, but in the midnight storm. A diamond is only formed under extreme pressure. Gold is only purified in the fire. And faith is only proven in the trial. Without the crushing, the pressing, the refining, you cannot carry the weight of the promise God has prepared for you. The greater the calling, the deeper the shaping. Sometimes the pain is a divine interruption. It stops you from going down a road that would have destroyed you, that job you lost. It may have been the closed door that protected you from a toxic environment, that relationship that ended. It may have been the rescue you didn't know you needed. God sees what you cannot see, and what feels like loss today will one day be revealed as mercy in disguise. Other times, the pain is training. It is the spiritual gym where your endurance is built. Muscles do not grow without resistance, and faith does not grow without testing. The trial you're in now is stretching you to hold more, see more, and trust more. There are also moments when the pain is preparation for ministry. You cannot truly comfort the broken until you've been broken yourself. You cannot speak life to the hurting until you have known what it is to hurt. You cannot lead someone out of a valley you've never walked through. Sometimes God allows you to walk through the fire so you can lead others to safety when it's their turn. And yet, when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel purposeful. It feels crushing. That's why it's important to remember the words of Romans 8:2, 8I. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God. I would to those who are the called according to his purpose. Not some things, all things. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, they're all being woven together into a masterpiece you can't fully see yet. Think of a tapestry. On the back, all you can see is a tangled mess of knots and threads going in every direction. It looks chaotic. But when you turn it over, the picture comes into focus and you realize every twist and knot had its place. Your life right now might look like the tangled side of the tapestry, but God sees the front. He sees the design, and he is weaving with skillful hands. Do not despise the process. The same God who allowed the pain is the God who will bring the purpose from it. The enemy may have sent it to break you, but God will use it to build you. What the devil intended for destruction will become the very weapon you use to set others free. And here's the truth that often gets forgotten. Sometimes the very pain you are praying for God to remove is the pain that is shaping you into the person you have been praying to become. The strength you want, the wisdom you desire, the faith you long for, they are being formed in the very furnace you want to escape. So do not give up in the middle of the refining fire. Do not walk away before the story is complete. The God who began a good work, and you will not leave it unfinished. And when you step out on the other side, you will be able to look back and say, it was good that I was afflicted, for it taught me to trust him in a way I never had before. Your pain has a purpose. Your tears are seeds. Your wounds will become scars that testify of God's faithfulness. And one day, you will thank him not just for the deliverance, but for the very valley that brought you there. So hold on. The pain will not last forever, but the purpose it produces will last for eternity. Faith is not built in the comfort of understanding. It is built in the mystery of surrender. Trusting God is easy when his plan aligns with what you can see and what you expect. But true trust is forged when nothing makes sense, when the road bends into darkness, when the instructions seem impossible, and when the timing feels painfully wrong. If life with God was always logical, it would not require faith. Faith is trusting the heart of God when you cannot trace the hand of God. It's standing firm when the pieces don't fit, believing there's a picture you cannot yet see. Abraham knew this well. God told him to leave his father's house, his land, and everything familiar without giving him a destination. No map, no timeline, no explanation. Just a call, go to the land I will show you. Can you imagine packing up your life without knowing where you're going? Yet Abraham obeyed because he trusted the one who called him more than the comfort of the known. Noah knew it too. God told him to build an ark because a flood was coming at a time when there was no rain in sight. People mocked. Neighbors whispered. Decades passed. Still no rain. But Noah kept building because he trusted God's word over human logic. Mary, a young virgin, heard the angel say she would carry the Son of God. She had no husband, no plan for how this could be possible, and every reason to be afraid of what people would think. Yet she said, "Be it unto me according to your word." Every one of these stories has one thing in common: God's instructions defied human reason, but obedience led to divine fulfillment. It is no different today. There are moments when God asks for a step that doesn't match the information you have. He closes doors that seemed perfect. He delays answers you thought you needed immediately. He redirects you to places that seem barren. And in the natural, it makes no sense. But Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." When you see confusion, God sees clarity. When you see a detour, God sees the safest route. When you see a delay, God sees divine timing. What feels like a roadblock may actually be a redirection towards something greater. Think about the cross. To the disciples, the crucifixion was the end of everything they believed in. The Messiah they followed was hanging lifeless on a cross. It made no sense. How could God's plan include such a brutal death? But 3 days later, the silence of the tomb was shattered by resurrection life. What looked like defeat was actually the greatest victory in history. And that is the nature of God's plan. It often looks like loss before it looks like gain. It often feels like death before it reveals life. It often feels like being buried when in reality you are being planted. Sometimes trusting God's plan means accepting that you won't get all the answers right now. We live in a world that craves instant explanation, but God deals in eternal perspective. He sees the end from the beginning. He's not just working for your comfort today. He's working for your character, your calling, and your crown tomorrow. There's a reason the Bible calls him the potter and us the clay. Clay does not get to dictate how it is shaped. The potter's hands press, stretch, and spin the clay into a vessel that can hold value. From the clay's perspective, the process makes no sense. It feels rough, unsteady, and overwhelming. But the potter knows exactly what he's making. That's what God is doing in your life. The spinning you feel is not chaos, it's creation. The pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. The things you can't understand right now are part of a design that will make perfect sense later. This is why Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." Notice, it doesn't say in some of your ways. It says in all your ways. Trust him with your relationships, your finances, your health, your future, every area. Because the moment you lean on your own understanding, you limit yourself to human reasoning. But when you trust God fully, you tap into divine wisdom. Trusting the plan doesn't mean it won't hurt. Trusting the plan doesn't mean it won't confuse you. Trusting the plan means you anchor yourself in the truth that the planner is faithful, loving, and good, even when the path is not clear. There will be days when you feel like Peter stepping out of the boat into a storm. The waves are high, the wind is fierce, and nothing about it feels safe. But if your eyes are fixed on Jesus, you will walk where others sink. There will be days when you feel like the Israelites standing at the Red Sea, the enemy behind you, and an impossible wall of water before you. But if you trust the one who led you there, you will see waters part and dry ground appear where there was none. Trust the plan. Trust it in the valley. Trust it on the mountain. Trust it when the night is long and when the morning is still far away. Because God is too wise to make a mistake and too loving to let you fall. One day you will look back at this season and say, it had to happen this way. You'll see how every no was protecting you, how every delay was positioning you, and how every closed door was guiding you to the open one that no man can shut. Until then, hold steady, keep walking, keep believing. Even when it doesn't make sense, God's plan is still perfect, and his timing is still right on schedule. There is a lie the enemy loves to whisper in the darkness. This is it. This is all there is. Your story ends here. It comes in the low moments, the diagnosis, the betrayal, the failure, the grief. It comes when prayers seem unanswered and doors remain shut. It comes when the weight of life feels too heavy to carry another step. But that lie must be crushed by the truth. Your story is not over until God says it's over. David, a man who knew the depths of despair, once said in Psalm 27:13, "I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living." Notice, he didn't say he might see it. He believed he would see it. He held on to the promise that even in the midst of the battle, even in the shadow of death, there was still goodness ahead. That same promise belongs to you. No matter how dark the night, there is a dawn. No matter how deep the valley, there's a mountaintop. No matter how strong the storm, there is a Savior who can calm it with one word. Every chapter of your life is connected to the author who has never failed to finish what he started. The enemy may try to scribble his lies into your story, but he is not the one holding the pen. God is the author and the finisher of your faith. He writes redemption into failure, victory into defeat, and beauty into ashes. Think about Lazarus. He had been dead for 4 days. People had already written his ending. The mourners were convinced the story was closed. But then Jesus arrived and called him out of the tomb. The people saw death, but Jesus saw a resurrection waiting to happen. Your situation may feel like it's been buried for too long. But if Jesus calls it out, it will live again. Sometimes we make the mistake of treating a single season as if it's the whole story. But just because this chapter is hard doesn't mean the ending will be tragic. The Bible is filled with people whose middle chapters looked hopeless. Joseph in prison, Ruth as a widow, Job in loss, Paul in chains. Yet every single one of them saw God turn the page to reveal a chapter of victory. And here's something powerful to remember. God doesn't just give you a better ending. He uses the very pain you endured to strengthen the plot. The things you thought would break you become the very testimony that lifts others. Your scars become proof that you've been through the fire and survived. Your tears become the seeds of your future harvest. But holding on isn't just about waiting. It's about holding on with expectation. The farmer doesn't plant seeds and then sit in despair, wondering if anything will grow. He waits with hope because he knows the ground is working even when he can't see it. That's how you must hold on, expecting that what God has planted in your life will produce fruit in due season. Yes, there will be moments when you feel too weak to keep going. That's when you lean into the promise of Isaiah 45:3-1. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Waiting on the Lord is not passive. It is an active, trusting posture that says, I may not see it yet, but I believe it's coming. The enemy wants you to quit right before the breakthrough. He knows if he can get you to give up in the middle, you will never see the ending God has written. But the power of your testimony will be that you did not quit when it hurt the most. And make no mistake, God specializes in late-stage miracles. He shows up when the situation looks impossible so that his glory is undeniable. The Red Sea didn't part until the Israelites had their backs against the water. Daniel wasn't delivered from the lion's den until after he had been thrown in. The fiery furnace didn't reveal the Son of God walking in the flames until the 3 Hebrew men were already bound inside. If you are still breathing, there is still purpose. If you are still standing, there is still a promise. If your heart is still beating, God is still working. Your current pain is not the conclusion. It's the setup. So hold on when the night feels endless. Hold on when the prayers seem unanswered. Hold on when the voices around you say it's over. Because the author of your life is still writing, and the next word could change everything. Declare this truth over yourself. I am not abandoned. I am not finished. I am not defeated. God is with me. God is for me. My best days are ahead, not behind. When the enemy tries to remind you of your failures, remind him of your future. When fear whispers, you can't shout back, God can. When doubt tells you the story is over, point to the empty tomb and say, my God writes resurrection endings. Your story will not end in defeat. It will end in victory, in fulfillment, in the glory of God revealed through your life. And when that final chapter is read, it will testify to the world that you held on, you trusted, and you overcame, not by your own strength, but by the one who promised to never let you go. So take a deep breath, wipe your tears, lift your head, and hold on, because your story isn't over, and the best is yet to come. Don't walk away from God now. Don't quit when you're this close. The tears you've cried are watering the seeds of your next season. The faith you fought for is building the bridge to your breakthrough. When you feel abandoned, whisper his name. When you feel lost, lift your hands. When it hurts, keep praising. And you will see with your own eyes, God never left you, not for 1 second. Now stand up in faith, dry your tears, and keep walking forward, because the God who started the work in you will finish it, and your story will end in victory.